Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today at QE Babble. What you're watching today is part 2 of a conversation about leadership in quality engineering. The trend that we've noticed in the industry is for managers from a traditional software development background to be a little more likely to make the transition to director or CTO level positions. And actually stats back this up. So only 5% of people from a formal testing or QE background make it to CTO or engineering director level, compared to 41% from software development. So there are some key reasons why that is, and we're going to try and delve into some of those today. The panel that we've invited to join us today have all made the step away from a dedicated QE role into something slightly different. So we're going to talk to them about how they've done it and really try and find out about their pathway towards doing that. So what the jump looks like to engineering leadership, how they continue to convey a quality mindset in a broader role, and what guidance they'd give to others who feel they might have reached a ceiling in quality focused positions and are perhaps struggling to find their next head of QA position. So we're going to try and cover this all in about 50 minutes, but we're also going to try and invite questions from people who are watching along. So if you have got anything you'd like to ask the panel, please feel free to drop it into the comment section on the LinkedIn chat, and we'll try and fit it in towards the end. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our panel, and then we're going to kick off with our first question. Hi, everyone. Nicola, would you like to start off by introducing yourself?
Sure, I can do that. Hi, I'm Nicola Sedgwick. I've been working with a company called Kazoo for the last 4 years. I've been public speaking and leading workshops at conferences for the last 10 years. I've been in tech overall for the last 2 decades, quite scarily. My time in tech has made me completely and utterly passionate about the potential for humans in engineering to bring skills from their lives and use those in their roles to make them better at team working, to make them better at their jobs that they do, and to help with their progression. I'm a huge fan of positive psychology, of seeing the good in situations and moving forwards, and that's true of seeing the potential in people as well and helping people fulfill their potential. I actually finish with Kazoo next week, so in terms of what I do next, I'm still working that one out.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks. Priyanka, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Priyanka. I'm an engineering leader at ZEPS, so Director of Engineering at ZEPS. It's a financial remittance platform company. I have experience, God knows how many years, almost 18 years of experience in the IT industry. I've been doing various roles in engineering leadership, started off from quality engineering leadership, and then moved into platform engineering, reliability engineering, product engineering. And I feel like my strong strengths are people and process. And something that I think at this point of time, I feel like I have become a process engineer. And that's what my role transitioned into. Looking forward to the chat today.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Steve?
Wow. Hi, I'm Steve Davenport. I'm head of engineering over at Medivet, and I share a lot of similar passions from Nicola and Priyanka there. I actually started my career as a tester way back in the early 90s, and literally have worked my way up the ladder, as it said, but then very quickly decided to move sideways because I wanted to diversify my thinking and actually gain more experience and knowledge of the whole delivery life cycle. And as part of doing that, that's where I picked up quality engineering quite a few years ago and went, wow, this is an immense subject that I knew very little about, and I've grown my time through there. And now here I am as head of engineering. Like Priyanka and Nicola, I'm a people person first. And yeah, process engineering, definitely agree with that. Once you understand process engineering, that's it. It unlocks quite a lot of things. It does. There you go, Matt.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. So the first question is quite a broad one, but important. is just trying to understand the panel's journey. So how they've made the transition from that dedicated QE role into what they're doing now. So Nicola, how did you get into the position that you're in at the moment?
I think my story starts probably with the first company I worked with. I spent 8 years working with that company, and it was a small one. So I went in under the support and training kind of role, but we were a 30-person company. When you're that small, you work together. You learn very deeply from your colleagues because you're all in it together. It's how I learned PHP. It's how I learned SQL, because if I could pick up those skills, I could fix support issues myself and take some of the load off my colleagues and stop interrupting them. That led through to specializing in quality. When you're doing the support, you've got a vested interest in the quality of the product, because it's you that people come and complain at when there's a problem. And so we built up those processes internally and in a nice collaborative environment. But I was the one leading it, and I felt a little bit like I was making it up as I went along, because I was bringing ideas in from outside. And where was the challenge to that? Because there weren't the other people looking at the same specialism. So I moved on and joined a company that had 35 testers. They had more testers than we had staff in my previous company. And the best learning was that everything I thought I'd been making up was actually pretty good. It was customer centric. It was focused on flow. It was focused on collaborating. The things that we talk about now as shifting left and shifting right, it was actually those kind of concepts, just didn't have the language for it. From there, I went contracting for around 10-ish years, working in a lot of different scenarios as a contract tester or helping out as product owner or agile consultant. And I think all of that was very crucial for where I joined Kazoo initially as quality coach, because I had such a vast array of experience from different industries, different setups. It gave me quite a holistic view that there really is no right answer. It is contextual. It's what are you trying to achieve? How do you build that quality into what you're doing? I'm now lead agile coach at Kazoo. So I switched title along that journey, mainly because I have a viewpoint of quality being very holistic. Like we've all just said in our intros, it's about the people, it's about the process. It's not purely about code quality. And there's pathways that being called an agile coach open up, and maybe you're invited to more conversations. Maybe it's just assumed you'd want to be in the conversations under the guise of agile coach, whereas quality coach might have restricted you a bit more to just being in those technical code quality conversations. End of the day, teamwork, programs, delivery, organizing learning and development programs for engineers, these are all different aspects of quality for me. So it's a different title, but to me it's still quality.
Thank you. So just before we move on to Priyanka, so just this might be a leading question, but so even though you haven't got quality in your title now, do you still feel that you convey your sort of background in quality engineering within that role? It sounds like you do from some of the stuff you just said there.
I think I definitely do. You won't find me testing anything these days, but you will find me asking the same kind of questions, like, have you talked to the business stakeholder to understand this process? How are you going to understand if customers are actually using this new feature? It's the same questions. It's coming from a different engagement model.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for that. Priyanka?
I'm going to give a little bit of a whistle-stop tour to my career to give you guys a bit of an understanding of where I come from. So I started off my journey as a software engineer way back when, 2005. I moved into quality engineering very early on in my career, and it happened. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed writing all the Python scripts, Perl scripts, and sort of very many scripting languages that I got to use in there. I constantly became somebody who was pushed into leadership positions, manager positions, in every role that I did. That kind of made me feel like I wanted to stay an individual contributor for longer because I had a passion for technology, but I guess my inner strengths always came through in the roles. I joined Sky. I joined as a Python engineer, but very soon again, the same thing happened. I got moved into a leadership position. I was heading delivery of tools and test automation at Sky for their flagship product. I started off a team from scratch, from just me being one person in there, and grew it to over 30 to 40 people. Within a few years, we were creating innovative solutions, both software and hardware, to support quality improvements at Sky. So my role was a very interesting mix of engineering, product strategy, DevOps and pipeline engineering, quality engineering, and it was all a lovely mix of it. And I feel like I grew as a leader, as an engineer in that role quite a bit. I moved from there, I moved into a very small company. Coming from Sky, which was a large organization, I moved into a 60 people company, a scale up, 60 to 70. I moved as a head of engineering there, reporting into the C-suite directly. It was a very daunting position to be in. It is super new for me. It was a huge learning curve. And my responsibilities included team, technology, process transformation, thinking about not just the product strategy and engineering strategy, but also the business strategy along with my business stakeholders. And it really helped me sort of grow my horizons. I moved into healthcare technology as a director of engineering there, and right now I'm in financial technology. So I've moved various domains, but what I have felt that I've kept throughout of these is my passion for both sort of all types of engineering, whether it's product engineering, pipeline engineering, or quality engineering, my passion for that. And I feel like I have grown and made them stronger through the various roles that I've been in. So that's a bit of a career journey for me.
Thanks, Priyanka. Steve?
Yeah, cool. Wow. I think you could, on the outside, you could say I was probably lucky to be in the right place at the right time to be head of engineering at Medivet. And actually, it's never that simple. Like Priyanka, I report straight into the C-suite. Wow, that's a whole presentation on its own, how you manage that first time round. But since about 2017, every role I've taken has been carefully chosen to either improve my people skills, increase my knowledge of delivery lifecycle and delivery processes, and also then to hone my people skills. So I get to work with a director, I get to work with a head of, and then product and ops, and I've done everything like that quite deliberately. So I've worked with people a lot higher up on the ladder than me, but also never forgot where I've come from. So if people are lower on the ladder, I hate those phrases, but it's so easy to visualize. I make an effort of bringing them along as well. So it is about engaging those people wherever they are, above, below, alongside me, and saying, hey, these are the kind of things I think we should be doing. What do you think? So I take that much a very collaborative approach, which I think is what Nicola and Priyanka have hinted at there quite well. But yeah, mine's been very deliberate, from going from tester, quality engineer. Even as a quality engineering manager, you're still very hands-on. And to be clear, quality engineering for me is not test automation. It's breaking the words quality and engineering apart and being able to apply both within your role. That's the key thing. I think a lot of people think it's not, because quality is subjective. Engineering is very, very directive. You know, if we think about engineers, they're very exact. So how you marry the two is why I think you need to be able to step away. So yeah, man, that's really how I've got to be head of engineering. Last 6 years, crikey, a deliberate approach. I didn't realise. Yeah, I'll stop now, mate.
6 years gone fast.
Yeah, it is. You know, before lockdown, we forget what the market was like before lockdown. You know, testers were still classed sometimes second-class citizens, dare I say? I mean, I can because I've grown up through that. But since then, the mindset's changed for a lot of people who do testing and quality engineering. And I think people who can express themselves with those characteristics will excel quite a lot more in this new world, rather than just saying, I'm a tester, I'm a software engineer. No, the roles exist, but the mindsets are completely different. Would you grasp that, which I can talk about later, that unlocks the key.
Okay. Cheers, Steve. Interesting. Thank you.
Matt, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next point I wanted to talk about was, and we've kind of touched on it slightly, is what the jump to engineering leadership looks like. So how it differs from a purely quality focused role, and perhaps the panel can talk about what more responsibilities they have now than they had before in their previous positions, and also how they've been able to sort of cope with that change. I think Priyanka and Steve, both mentioned that roles that report directly into the C-suite bring their own challenges. Maybe we can just briefly talk about some of those challenges and how being a sort of QA person at heart perhaps helps. Nicola, can we start with you?
Sure. I think for me, it's being a lot more rounded in your own approach and the way that you see how everything fits together. So it's less about how do I test something? Are we including security checks? Are we including accessibility checks? It's less of that very direct quality considerations, and it's more about how do we get where we're going. Like Priyanka was saying about product strategy, it's we want happy customers, we want business value, and we want empowered, satisfied colleagues. How do we get there while also making sure things are built and they're tested? And I think that's quite a leap for a lot of people as they go up the seniority. I've frequently seen people become senior quality engineers and treat it as a mandate to definitely get that security testing done, rather than to start becoming more strategic about the overall approach. I guess a good example for myself at Kazoo is right at the beginning when I came in as quality coach, the model was that the quality engineers would report to the engineering managers. So the quality engineering is a part of engineering to prevent that silo, to prevent any aspect of software being created and then thrown across to testers. We make them part of the one group. And I understand that a common theme amongst people going for the role that I got was that they wanted a quality manager role. They wanted the quality engineers to report to them. They would build them up to be quality engineers. And I can see how people take that approach because it is a natural way to grow your career. Get seniority, get the management, get the line management experience. But I don't think that was the best thing for the engineering organization. So I probably, for a little bit, put my own career aside, that it's okay if someone else can manage them, someone else can grow them. I'll be the coach that supports those engineering managers doing something unfamiliar. Most of them had never managed a quality person before. But I think that's right overall for the outcomes that we wanted from the tech org, from the culture that we wanted to build of quality belonging to the team. And I think for me, that's when like Steve says, you're focused on how do you grow your skills for your career, you are often forced with quite hard choices about the good of the org versus the good of your own career, and making those decisions, that is hard, and there is a big jump in having that strategic thinking and logic in order to make those decisions.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and to be honest, that's one of the reasons why we're having the whole debate, because and this was part of the introduction. But there's a lot of people out there, and some of them may be watching. Hopefully, they've gone down the path of working as a quality leader. They've got to head of QA, and they are kind of questioning where to go next with it. And I think some of the things you're saying there is that it's about thinking about more than just and it's kind of, I guess it's easy to say, isn't it? But it's thinking about more than just kind of those more obvious rungs on a ladder of where your career should go, and having a bit more of a broader mindset on what's best for the organization at the time, and how you can kind of it's not necessarily about just moving up, is it? You could always move across, like I think you just described you did there. And there's viable ways of shifting your career right and left, rather than just always thinking about it going upwards.
I wanted to sort of add on to something that Nicola said, and I think the way I look at team structures, first of all, I'm a big fan of team topology. If anybody hasn't read the book or actually is aware of how team topologies work, I would highly recommend you do that. But the way I look at sort of how teams work is you have a team that's aligned on a purpose, on a sort of customer-focused purpose. We call those as stream-aligned teams, right? And then you have enabling and platform teams, or complicated subsystem teams, which are generally two probably niche teams over there. If I think about it, I don't see a quality engineering team fall into any of those models, any of those roles in here. And that's where, because it is not a model that will continue to work sort of going forward. Unless we model it such that they become part of the stream-aligned team, a purpose that this team is serving for the product itself, or make them become a platform or enabling team. And I have done it in multiple ways in previous companies, depending on the size of the company and the scale of the challenge that they have. A lot of times just combining quality within the engineering team's work, but where you're looking for larger companies where you want to bring in more alignment, more standardization, build in platforms that are reusable across the teams. I've worked in companies where there were 45 plus teams, and we wanted to bring in alignment in the tooling that we use. And we created platform teams in those cases. And those platform teams were creating the quality sort of platforms, test platforms, and ensuring everybody had the right knowledge to be able to use them, not necessarily write the automation tests for them, but ensuring they had the tooling easily available for them to be able to use. So I feel that's how I've started looking at quality engineering from my angle. So there is still growth and scope to specialize into quality engineering, but we need to start thinking of either you're going to become a platform team or you're going to become an enabler, and which could be like an internal consulting model. And lots of large companies do have those internal consulting models, right? You would necessarily not find those in companies which have less than 100 people companies, because that's not necessarily needed. At those point of times, you're more at execution level than consulting levels. So that I just wanted to add that, because Nicola pointed out some very interesting points about how teams are structured around quality these days.
Would you mind just outlining again, if it wasn't clear from what you've just described, on a platform team and how that differs from an enabling team?
Yes. So to me, a platform is sort of like these days we've started using cloud platforms and sort of security platform. Platform is a tooling, something that you create and provide it as a service. And other people, you make sure that there is good documentation, you make sure there are good sort of readmes, ways of working of how to use that platform. But it's like a platform as a service. Enabling is a one level sort of either sideways or upwards, wherein you the model is the collaboration model with enabling teams is a bit different. With platforms, you're just facilitating the use of the platform. With enabling, you're working in collaboration with the teams that you are supporting. The way I have sort of had enabling teams in the past is the team would work as a small team would work as a consultant, would go embed for a quarter within another team. They will help them sort of understand the quality standards that they could and should be using. They will help sort of enable and build in some of the platforms that the team should be using, and then move across to another team in the next quarter. So that's an enabling model. It's more of a tighter collaboration model than a platform one.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. While you've got the floor as well, have you got any other sort of points to raise around how you you're conveying that, or what the sort of jump looks like, and how that quality mindset's maintained?
So the way I think about sort of engineering and quality engineering engineering is wide and broad, right? You've got product engineering, platform, infrastructure, reliability, quality, security. They're all sort of specialist areas within engineering. I don't think the jump from quality engineering to any other aspects of engineering is too wide. You need to understand what your interests and strengths are and figure out how you specialize in other areas of engineering as well. Quality engineering comes from a sort of an interesting place. It gives you a bit of a wide angle view into things already, because being more analytical helps with quality engineering skills. And I think that starts helping with other specializations as well. So that's why I feel like jumping from quality engineering into other phases of engineering, other specialism in engineering, is generally not too high a jump. But people need to make sure they know what their interests and focuses are, and choose the right roles accordingly.
So often it needs to be a sort of conscious effort, really, or conscious thought that you're having.
Exactly. Yeah, I think just letting your career simply go can work, but usually you would find your next comfortable place with those, right? At times, moving across from one specialist area to another one requires you to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. So my rule of thumb initially in my career was, hey, if I am getting 80% comfort zone and 20% out of sort of comfort zone, that's me being too comfortable. So I changed the model to, hey, let's do 50% comfortable, 50% not. And there are roles where I changed the model completely to, this is only 20% known and 80% unknown, but I will still do it. And the way you learn through taking on those jobs is sort of drastically different than when you had stayed in your comfort zone.
Brilliant. Thank you. Steve?
Wow. Okay, yeah. How do you follow that? Really, I think picking up on something Nicholas said as well resonates with me. In all my previous roles, I've essentially been hired to be the expert, whether that's for a number of years, skills, technical skills, etc., etc. We all get that, and whether that's testing, quality engineering, quality coaching. And as I said before, I've taken a very deliberate path with my career now. And even though I've been the expert, I've used that position within that role to grow myself, whether it's networking, being the enabler, or championing people to be enablers, and growing and learning what that means, because that's not coaching, that's actually mentoring to actually make people enablers. Coaching and mentoring to me are different things. However, my current role is completely different. I need to have a clear understanding of software engineering, quality engineering, and DevOps engineering. Exactly what Priyanka was saying. Product is not within my space, but I need to understand it because it's one of my feeds into the engineering workspace. However, the key thing I need to understand is I'm not the expert in any of those now. And that's a really, really good thing, because we pay a lot of money for a lot of clever people who want to be experts and who are really, really bright and have got more great ideas than I will ever have. And that's fine. And I'm really comfortable with that. But this changing focus now, as I say, I report into the C-suite, which now means I get new activities like, when we're hiring a new recruitment agency, for example, and I won't say that just because Matt's here, but what about statement of works? Who writes a statement of work, for example? What about negotiating commercials with third-party suppliers, etc., etc.? Owning the engineering budget, and mine's not a small budget, considering there's 25 people there. I'd never done that before. And then understanding how a C-suite views the business is completely different from anything. All those things is diversifying my skill sets and bringing in new knowledge and new understandings. Do I make mistakes? Yes, I do. But I've got a great CIO who gives me the space to make that mistakes, give me that psychological safety. And I repay that by giving my engineering team the psychological safety to go, whoops, we've deployed the wrong piece of code today. No problem, we'll just back it out and redeploy the next one. That is more powerful than any ITIL process, having that psychological safety. And that is part of being an enabler as well. And that's the difference, Matt, for me. When I'm in the other roles, they were very targeted, very number driven. But because of my background and approach, because it's people, processes, actually I'm opening my eyes to a different world. So yeah, that's how it looks different. And that's what I try to do on a day-to-day basis. I hope they're not on this call.
They might watch the recording at least. Thanks, Steve. Okay, so the next question's about you're all from a quality engineering background, but doing something which is slightly bigger, broader, or different now. So, how are you continuing to maintain that quality mindset in the new role, and how do you think that benefits the wider team and the effort to deliver whatever it is you're delivering, Nicola?
I'll keep my answer a bit shorter this time. For me, it's focusing on risk and focusing on business value. So there was one particular contract I remember with a startup called Dugout, where I had a conversation with the founder, and his comment to me was, why are you testing? You're wasted as a tester. You should be an engineering leader. And that conversation came from the fact that when I spoke with him, I spoke about what was the business value we were trying to release and what were the risks that we were going to have to overcome, what we needed to overcome those risks. And from his point of view, no one from tech talked to him like that. They talked about resources, they talked about number of sprints to complete things. They took his instructions of what he wanted and told him how long it would take, but he didn't normally see people in tech talking about risk and talking about business value. And from my point of view, in quality, in testing, in quality engineering, we learn to do that really early, much earlier than software engineers do, and it becomes a natural part of how we talk. We can't test everything. We can't put automation on everything and still keep our pipelines fast. We have to risk assess. We have to work out what the risks are in what we're building, in the testability of what we're building. And we have to focus on whether we're building the right things, because that's part of quality as well. Are we focusing on the right areas? And it gave me a different outlook that I hadn't realized that exec also talked about business value and about risk. And the interesting thing is, if you listen in to any company's investor calls, or you brave it and read a company's financial statements, predominantly the wording in there is around risks to the company, risks to their future, and what value they're trying to release. And it's the same language we use in quality. Sorry, that got longer. I said it's going to be a short answer.
No, it's good. It's good, and I think it's the answer that probably quite a lot of people would want to hear. That actually it has a massive wider benefit, and I think it's important to say that this conversation isn't about a software development background versus a quality engineering background. And it's not to say that if you're from a dev background, then you can't have those things, or you don't. Absolutely not. But there's clear benefits there to all of the experiences that you've had up to that point. And how it helps in those sort of, those high level, those senior level conversations that you have with people who own the business, have shares in the business, the VCs who back them, and their priorities. So no, it's really good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for picking me up on that. Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that software engineers don't pick up these skills as well, but you tend to see them from like the mid-level of their careers onwards. They're starting to talk like that, whereas you get it earlier in the quality engineers.
Yeah, because it's inherent, isn't it? It's part of your training. It's literally everything about the job from day one, I guess. So yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you, Priyanka.
I think my role currently is very focused on obsessing about the customer, the value that we are delivering to the customer. That includes providing quality products to them so that we can retain existing customers, and also making our product easy to use, easy to onboard into, so that we can have better conversion rates, right? And I feel like that has a very good analogy with quality in there as well. So I can't sort of say any better than what Nicola has already articulated. I think the focus has become a lot more into not just thinking about quality from a narrow angle, but actually changing the angle of your lens of your camera and taking a wide angle shot right now, where you start thinking about quality as, hey, are we building the right products? Are we delivering the business value? Is our customers happy with what we are delivering? Are we actually delivering at the pace that we need to deliver to keep in the business, in the market with our competitors? So it's just, that's how I feel the change has happened. And it really helps to have that background and that knowledge, which allows you to have that wide angle view constantly.
Okay, thanks a lot. Steve?
Wow, okay, yeah. I'll do my best anyway to follow two great answers like that. I think one of the things to think about for me, context here, is Medivet is in animal healthcare, if it wasn't obvious by that, but healthcare is the key bit here. And anybody working in healthcare knows that their colleagues or customers are very resistant to change because it has to work. Otherwise, there's lots of consequences. So when I joined Medivet, it very much was devs do this and testers, what's your coverage metric? Numbers all the time being thrown at me. And I would say, yeah, okay, fine, whatever our coverage is, it doesn't matter. But I would ask the person, do you truly care about how many tests we run on a Monday? And if you do, what are you going to do with that number? Whether it's 10, 100, 1,000, what are you going to do with that data? Because it's not information in its own right, that's just data. And to be honest, 99% of people just asked it because they didn't know any different. And for me, that was a really big clue of how I've approached the last 14 months and built out my strategy and vision. And essentially what I've done, I've changed the narrative to focus on outcomes such as stability, predictability, performance rather than performance. Because these are the things that my colleagues who work in the branches with the vet actually care about. Is the software stable? Is that button always in the same place when I'm treating the sick animal? The answer is yes. It's a big tick on that release. So the change inside has gone from very much a numbers, more about the outcomes on this. And within, that's when I'm talking across the business, I should say. So talking to the C-suite, talking to even coaching, guiding the head of product away from numbers and saying, you should be caring about, is this release going to be stable? This feature, what are your acceptance criteria? Is it all just functional? Because if it is, well, I've had to explain that there is non-functional words and how you can fit them in. And my engineering vision is around 3 characteristics: easier, faster, and more reliable. That's it. It sounds very simple, but anybody who's tried to do that, you make delivery easier. Yeah, I can see both Nicola and Priyanka going, oh my gosh, don't go there, Steve, because they know what it is. But once you crack it, you can actually do so much more. And then I think that's when quality engineering comes into play a lot stronger to make things easier. Because yes, exactly on my bookshelf just there, it actually is, yeah. And once you crack the easier, faster, and more reliable, say the quality engineer comes in and says, what quality activities can we inject into the delivery life cycle to make things easier? Are they enablers, going back to what Priyanka's saying, or are they more platform orientated, where you've got a suite of automation that can be run anytime, on demand, by any person? That's been the biggest thing that I've done, I would say, in how I project a quality mindset without having quality. Because people look at my title on the CV and think, oh, Steve's a dev. Never been a developer in my life. I can code in 3 or 4 languages as a quality engineer. But no, it's outcomes, not outputs for me. It is, and it's tough. But now my colleagues, C-suite, that's the interesting one. Talk about risk, and we've bunched up risk around things like stability and predictability and security as well. But now everybody talks about quality from the same understanding. We all understand the word stability. But really, do you understand the fact that this morning we ran 48,000 unit tests? No, and you don't care. No, none of my customers care about that. They're not bothered. Does it work? Yes, great, thank you. That's it. So yeah, Matt, I'll stop, because I could take up the rest of the day on that, as you know.
It's the passionate side of you, isn't it, that's coming out. So it's great. It's good to see. Thank you. Okay, so we've got one final question to go. We've got some great questions coming in from some of the people watching. We've got about 10. We potentially might extend by 5 minutes, 15 minutes left. So the final question is, and I think this is probably the most important one, is what guidance would you give to people who feel they may have reached a ceiling in quality focused roles? We've already kind of spoken about this a little bit. How do you think people can make the transition that you have, Nicola?
Based on some of the things that Priyanka and Steve have already said, I'm going to say listen to their answers rather than mine. Where I went contracting for a long time, I think I made that mistake of drifting from job to job. I think where Steve's already said about being intentional and deliberate, I think that's a much better plan. What I would say is keep an open mind. You never know where the opportunities are going to come from, but keep an open mind. Don't restrict yourself to your own little bubble. If there's an opportunity, try going for it. And that could be as simple as you see a process that you know is affecting the quality of the system you're working on. Rather than complaining that someone isn't fixing the process, go in with a suggestion, ask who you can talk to, ask if it's something that you can try fixing. Be a complete anarchist and just go in and fix it yourself and see who says thank you or who yells at you. Normally, if you fix things, people don't yell at you. But yeah, aside from that, I think Priyanka and Steve are going to have much better answers for you.
Steve, I'll jump to you on this one, and Priyanka, I'll come to you last if that's okay. Steve, go for it.
Thank you, Nicola, for that lead. That's really great. For me, diversify your thinking. Okay, don't just think because you've got a job title called tester, lead engineer. Think outside of that. You do that, you hide that, but what else can you do? So what do I mean specifically? So what I challenge my quality engineers is this: there's more information generated in one day of production than in all the thousands of test runs that we've ever done. So I ask them, what can you use from that data, that telemetry? How can you use it? Can you use it to create a test that we've not got? So diversify your thinking, use the information around you, actually enhance what you're supposed to be doing. And also, there's 2 more, diversify your commercial experience. There's so many companies and industries that you've never heard of. Like a couple of roles ago, I was working in the entertainment industry for theme parks. Seriously, and they've got some of the most up-to-date technology and the most outdated technology you can imagine. So I give a quick example. You know, you're on the ride, and there's that camera, and there's your photo at the end within 3 minutes. That's what I was doing as a quality engineer, making sure that photo was correct for you as you came here. But those cameras are military-grade cameras because the speed you're going on that ride is 50 to 60 miles an hour. Your iPhone's not going to cut it. And as you go by, we have to get the most perfect image of you, because that's what then makes you buy the photo at the end, not the boring one. We're all like that. So diversify your commercial experience. You know, look for different industries. You know, go looking for talented people that you want to go and work for. Find that niche. Step away from things. It will pay dividends later. And that leads me into my last point. Really, is also diversify your career. Don't follow trends. Don't follow what everybody else is doing, because guess what? Too late. The market's saturated. Identify gaps that you want to fill, but also identify your strengths that you want to then build up again. You know, anybody who looks through my LinkedIn profile or gets to see my CV, I've done 9 different industries across the many years, but I've always been slightly ahead of everybody else. One of the first people to do chip and pin testing, first people to do currency sensitivity testing, changing from national to euro, deregulation programs and things like that and stuff. Not because I want to do these big things, but I see a gap that will help me learn and grow. Diversification, that's my biggest thing, I would say, to anybody. You know, don't just be a tester, be that person. There you go, I'll stop there, man.
Thanks, mate. I'm gonna flash up. So I have been writing in the background. I'm going to flash up the notes now that I've taken from some of the great points you've raised before we come to Priyanka, and hopefully everyone is going to be able to see this. If it is too small, then I'm going to be sending rounds. If the text is too small, I'm going to be sending this rounds afterwards for people to look at and perhaps add a little bit more detail to. Priyanka, the reason why I came to you last is someone asked a question actually. And it links directly to question 4 anyway. I'm going to try and flash it up on the screen. I haven't done this before, so hopefully it should be viewable. If it's not, I will shout it out. So it comes from Anna Susan. She said, Priyanka, do you think you would have found those jobs and succeeded if there weren't a few key people who enable you to be in that role? And it seems like most of the time we lack empowerment and the opportunity to show that we can evolve in any other type of position. And I think before we started today's session, this was something I spoke to all of you about the event and about, you know, these wider opportunities. Do you think that it's down to circumstance that you get into these positions, or are there obvious steps that you can take to transition into a different position?
I think it's a very, very interesting question. Is life dependent on just circumstance, or do you deliberately form your life? And I think that's how your career is as well, right? It's a mixture of circumstances as well as deliberate choices. I completely agree that I don't think I would have found these jobs or would have succeeded in them if I didn't have people who mentored me, who actually believed in me. So one of the stories that Nicola had shared earlier was there was somebody who told you, Nicola, right, that, hey, what you're doing in the quality tester role, you understand overall business product strategy. I actually remember an exact same conversation with one of the leaders where I joined in as the head of engineering after, where I was told the same thing as well. Hey, we want you as an engineering leader, not a quality engineering leader, because you just seem to have much broader understanding of product and business strategy. So I think that's where you definitely do need enablers in your life who allow you to make that happen. But I do believe in not leaving everything to chance and actually constantly putting in your effort. I also wanted to actually say a lot of times it's feels more comfortable to think about, hey, from quality engineering, let's go into engineering. But I think as Steve and Nicola were also talking about, diversify your thought process. It might be product management is something that you would be able to do better at. It might be delivery management. That's actually your key strength. It might actually be agile coaching, which interests you the most, right? So think about what interests you and think diverse. It sort of technology is not just about writing code or leading people who write code. It's much broader than that.
Thanks a lot. Steve, there's a great question here that's come in off the back of something that you said. Let me flash it up. So Tom said that he couldn't agree more with what you were saying around automation and the different mindsets involved. Would you agree that there's an apparent trend in the industry starting to swing away from fully automation and seeing it as a magic bullet, and a rise in companies looking for manual testers due to that specific mindset difference?
I totally agree. I mean, I've never seen automation as a magic bullet. It was a means to an end for me, but that's my thinking. It was just a tool to me. It wasn't a way of working. And everywhere I've worked in any leadership position, I've always had people who use their hands and their brains rather than just writing code, because there's a lot to be said for exploratory testing that is very hard to nail down, just like quality is very hard to nail down. But automation will only tell you what you already know. It's as simple as that. It can't intuit. It just cannot, like a human being. You know, it cannot adapt to what we can do right now. If this stream ends, that's it. Is it a trend going across? I don't think it ever went away, Tom. I'll be honest with you. I think what's happened, there was a lot of noise in the market about automation. Automation is apparently automation is allow you to go faster. Yeah, but what about the upfront time? This is code you're writing. So you've got to design it. You've got to architect it properly. It's got to be as strong as production code, because essentially it's running against production code. And I think there was a lot of noise around that space. And I understand why there was a lot of noise. The backlash from manual testing taking so long. But that's because back in the past, in the 90s, we didn't know how to design test plans properly. It was start at the top, finish at the bottom. But now with methodologies like Agile and definitely Scrum and Kanban, we can plan and design our manual testing completely different. We don't have to do a 20-page test plan unless you have to do it for compliance or governance. Tests can be structured in ways that are more efficient, just like automation. So is it a trend? I don't know, because I've not looked at the online recruitment market just recently for testers. But I know when I literally just hired a quality engineering manager, I asked these questions and say, where are your strengths? You know, is it testing, is it quality engineering, everything? And he said, it's all of those. And that's why I think diversity, it won't go away. This thing we call manual testing and automated testing, they're just crap labels from the past. They are. And it's about the quality and the outcomes that we should be focusing on. Priyanka said, it doesn't matter what our role title is. We're all investors in quality. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's obviously something that, as part of my job, I see a lot, and I think the whole sort of job title thing within the world of quality engineering is a bit confused. It's very conflicted. Software development test automation engineer, automation QA engineer. There's so many different job titles out there. I think quality engineer sums things up a lot more accurately, because it's a lot broader than that, and it means that people potentially aren't that blinkered towards just thinking about automation. But it's definitely a big debate in the industry, and probably deserves another LinkedIn Live all of its own. Just one nice question here, Steve, to finish things off. Robert said, did you at least get free rides for the rest of your life?
Oh, yes, Robert, we did. We actually had to go testing. User acceptance testing was to go on the ride, make sure the camera worked, and there was your photo. Yes.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you so much to Nicholas, Steve, and Priyanka for contributing today. We really appreciate it. And there's been some great points raised. Lots of active conversation in the LinkedIn chat, and lots of good content here, which we've written up. The event will be available for people to watch at any point again in the future via the same link. So thank you everyone for watching along, and again thank you to the panel for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.